Hi, today I'm on the outskirts of Crimond in Aberdeenshire, and the plan is to do a stealthy camp in an old World War II base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head into the base and I'll tell you a little bit more about the history of the place, and we'll see if we can find somewhere to camp. This is what's left of a Royal Naval Field Hospital. It was built here because of the location of a Royal Naval air station just over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the camera around and I'll tell you a little bit about the place and why it's here. So let's go and have a look. This hospital site was built to serve a local air station. It was called Royal Naval Air Station Rattray, otherwise known as HMS Merganser, and it was run by the Navy. Now, HMS Merganser was built in 1943 and it opened in October 1944. It was built specifically as a training base, and it was used for training the air crews who were going to fly as part of the torpedo bombing and reconnaissance. Now, these planes were designed for dropping torpedoes on U-boats and for searching them out, but also the crews who came to HMS Merganser were taught in the very specialist skill of dive bombing. Now, at that time, the British military only had one purpose-built dive bombing plane, and that was the Fairey Barracuda, and it was a fairly infamous plane in that it did have a habit of coming apart while it was dive bombing, so it was a fairly risky situation. Now, the airbase had the unenviable kind of reputation as being having the highest crash rate of any other base, and after a few months of being open, the Navy very quickly recognised that the local medical facilities in the area were not keeping up with the amount of injuries and deaths the base was causing, so they decided to build their own hospital. Now, the base itself was closed in 1946 when it was mothballed, and in the 1970s the Navy decided to open up the airbase again and use it as a Royal Naval wireless station, and it was used as part of the Cold War long-range listening. Now, in 2004 it became part of the UK Defence High Frequency Communication Service, and it was handed over to a civilian company to run it, and it is still currently in use as a high frequency listening station. The site of the hospital itself, well, the hospital opened in 1945 because, well, they didn't know that the war was going to end that year, so it never actually got any use, and it was pretty much closed down straight away. Now, the Ministry of Defence removed all of the fixtures and fittings, they took the windows and the doors out and all that lot, and it was just left to decay. In the 1950s, some of the sheds were converted into pigsties and used by a local farmer, but that didn't last for too long. And then in the 80s, the base was kind of used by locals to do up cars, and there's quite a culture of car racing here. There's a track over at the old airbase, so it was a bit of a car place, and it got known as the car graveyard because of all the dead cars. But all of that was cleared away in the early 2000s when they applied to build housing on the site, and the planning permission got rejected, so it never happened, and what you see now is what's left of the place. Now, I suspect the solar farm that's opposite it will eventually swallow the place up, so I reckon they'll flatten this place fairly soon. So I think now's the time for me to document the place and show you around it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that walk round and that little bit of history. Now, I've had a look around the site, and most of the buildings are not very safe to go into, but I think I found one that might just suit the bill. So this building behind me is where I plan on camping tonight. Now, I am going to have to be careful and very stealthy, particularly with my lights and any fires that I have, because it is definitely busy with dog walkers. I've met 2 or 3 already while I was doing the history bit, but more importantly, you may have seen on the aerial footage the solar farm that has been built that way. And where I've left the van is about 10 feet from the security guard's hut. So I've put a thing on the screen telling them that I'm doing star photography, which I am, and hopefully that will be enough to stop them coming over here and kind of taking a look at what I'm doing. So Now I've told you all that, I think what I'll do is I'll take you through the building and I'll show you where I'm going to be setting up. Now in that corner is where I plan on camping tonight. I have actually swept the floor because there was quite a lot of broken glass. There we go, and that's what it looked like before I swept it. Yeah, a lot of broken glass and signs of previous fires in here. But I think we should be all right now. I don't know what the building was used for, but there's a big long sink there and a big long sort of sink there, and it looks like there were stalls down there, so I suspect that this was the ablution block, which seems to fit with all the other buildings on the site. And I think from the research I've done that the ward buildings for the hospital were temporary. They were wooden structures, and you can actually on the aerial footage see the what do you call it, the base of the huts, and each hut had a brick built ablution block with a small tower, like the one over there, that had a water tank in it and a boiler below it. And this building here too has got a tower above it. So anyway, that's what I think. And just outside this door, if you look over there, there is the aerial farm, and there are the security huts in the distance. My van is just slightly out of sight, so that yellow hut that's peering above the building in front of us, that I'm pretty sure is the security post. So I am going to have to just keep it kind of low profile. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up my digs for the night, and I've got a kind of strange idea because I believe it's going to drop below freezing tonight. The forecast is saying about -3. The sky is clear, and I think, yeah, it's got the feel of a cold night about it. So I'd initially planned on sleeping on the floor just in a bivvy bag, but I don't really want to wake up with frost on my beard, so I am going to set up something a little different. So I'm going to have a go at doing that now, and I'll bring you along with me. I'll set the camera up. Well, that's me all set up, and that was a good guess because I'd not tried out whether the tent was going to fit in the space, but the good old Euro height Tamar 2, brilliant. Freestanding tent. The vestibule will be a bit loose, but I'm not really that bothered. But I've held it down with a few bricks, and I think with me inside it, the weight of me and all of my kit, my Bergen and everything else, I think if the wind gets up, I think we should be able to hang on to the tent. Forecast is for quite still tonight, so I reckon it'll be fine. But I have put some bricks, more to just hold the fly sheet out more than anything else. But I'll show you what I've done. And as you can see, that just fits in the corner, and in the far corner I've got my Helinox chair, which is fitting in there quite nice, and I reckon it has enough space for me to, I'll probably cook, and that's kind of on the sink top in the corner there, and I may even have a fire either under there or in the other corner over there maybe, but I think I should be able to shield a lot of the kind of light from the flames over there. Watch for the sun. As you can probably tell, the sun is dropping. It's kind of 3 o'clock in the afternoon and the sun's kind of coming in horizontally, so wherever I film I'm going to get some sunlight on me. But yeah, that's the setup. I reckon I might be able to have a little fire under there and it'd be shielded so it can't be seen from the road, and I think that I'm going to need to do, otherwise they might call the fire brigade, which would be slightly embarrassing. So we'll I think I'm going to chill out for a bit. I'm going to get my camera gear set up so I can do my night shots, and I'll bring you back when I'm cooking some food. So I'll see you in a bit. Well, it's getting a bit chilly. The sun is dropping, and it's time for a brew. This time I'm using a different stove, and I'm using a homemade stove today. So I'll just unwrap my pot. So obviously I'm boiling everything in my Toaks titanium 750ml because it's just a good form factor. I like it. And let's get rid of that. So I've got that, which is a bit of an old kind of baking tin, an aluminium tin, as my pot holder. And this is the stove, and it's a little screw lid tin with ceramic wool inside it, and you just pour the ethanol or meths, whichever's your fuel of choice, and then light it. And bizarrely they work just like a Trangia, but are significantly lighter and smaller. So it's what I use when I'm bike packing. It's a tiny little thing, and that kind of sits and holds the pan above it. So what I'll do is I'll set it up and I'll spin the camera around and show you it in use. So here you go, that's it ready to light. So I'll see if I can do this one-handed. That's it lit. And all we do is pop the pot on top like that. And then I'll pull this round a little bit because, like with all spirit stoves, they need all the help they can get to keep that flame lit. But that's working all right. And that'll just sit there and take a while, but it'll boil up that water nice. So I shall get a brew in a minute. Well, there we go, we're boiling. It didn't take as long as I thought it was gonna. So just tea bag. There we go. Pop the lid back on. That was it, and pretty much just enough to boil one load. It's you can go bigger on these, but that's enough. One full kind of load of that will boil 750 mils or 500 mils, half a litre of water. So it's pretty good and very light. So I'm gonna have my brew, and I think by the time I finish that, it'll be dark. And I think once it gets dark, I'm gonna have some noodles because I'm actually hungry. I'm looking forward to my noodles tonight. So noodles and spam for dinner. So I'll see you then. Well, it's 7 o'clock and it is freezing cold. The building site is still operating, and I now have a massive floodlight that is kind of partially illuminating this place, but I've decided to just go for it. I'm definitely not going to be having a fire because there's also 2 farmhouses that I didn't know about that overlook us. So if I light a fire in here, I'm pretty sure it'll look like this building's on fire and we'll get a visit. So no fire tonight. But what I am going to do is I'm going to get my dinner on. And tonight, obviously, I've got shin ramen noodles and spam. Yep, I know that's a bit repetitive, but that's what I like eating when I'm camping. And I've got a can of Love Lane Baltic Lager to wash it down. And I've got some Stroop waffle biscuits for pudding. So what I'm going to do is I'll get that lot on, get the stove lit up, get some water on, and I'll bring you back when it's ready to eat. Well, that's the noodles ready. And yeah, they look and smell fantastic. But it just dawned on me that, well, it's not a very festive meal. So give me a minute, I'll see what I can come up with. Well, there you go. I'd like to say Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. That's very nice. So, I shall spare you watching me eat my noodles, and I shall report back when they are gone. So, I'll see you when I've had some food. Well, that's dinner done, and yeah, got to be my favourite noodles, those. They're the Shin ramen noodles there. They're spicy, but they're not blow your head off hot. And with chopped up spam, I think that's the perfect camping food. Really like that. Now for pudding, I've got some proper Dutch stroop waffles. Normally, we'd have these with a cup of coffee, and they actually need it at the moment. They're rock hard because it's about -2 at the moment. It's pretty darn cold. But instead of a cup of coffee, because it's Christmas, I am having a J Pure India Pale Ale. That's what I'm having with these. Because it's Christmas. Oh, now that is nice. That's a pudding beer. I like that. So I'm going to munch down on these. I'm going to turn these lights out because I am attracting quite a bit of attention from over the road. So I'm going to munch down on my stroop waffles, and I'll bring you back when I'm in the tent, because it's not going to be long, I think, because it's really cold out here. And I think I'm going to get my bag and I'm going to listen to my book. So I'll see you in the tent. Well, that's me in the tent. It's about 10 o'clock and it's proper cold out there, but it's quite a bit warmer in here. So it was a good idea to use the tent, even though I'm inside a building. In the summer, I would have most definitely just slept here in a bivvy bag or even just on a tarp, but it's cold, but it's kind of damp at the moment as well, and we're getting some very heavy frosts, and I really didn't want to wake up, covered in frost. I've put a time-lapse camera out, but I seem to have a knack of turning the skies to cloud. It was a beautiful clear sky earlier. Camera's out and we've clouded over, but yeah, it may clear in the night, we'll see in the morning. But nevertheless, I think it's time for kip. I'm gonna sit and listen to my book. I'm finishing off my Rebus book, and then I've got a new detective story to listen to that's based in Aberdeen. I'll tell you about that one in the next video. So until tomorrow morning, I'll say good night. See you in the morning. Well, good morning. It's just before 6, well, 5:45, and it's time to get up and get this stuff packed away and get out of here. It sounds like the world's waking up out there. There's certainly a lot of geese taking off from the lock just over there, and they're making a good old amount of noise, so I think I might as well just take advantage of the background noise and pack up and get out of here. So I think what I'll do is I'm gonna have a pee and get packed up, and I'll probably see you back at the van. So I'll see you in a bit. Well, that's me all packed up, so I'll show you around. Left it how I found it, and I better get moving because it is colder than I thought when I first woke up. So I'm gonna yonk back to the van, and I think I'll do a wash up when I get home. So I'll see you back home. Bye. Well, that's me back home, and all in all, a really good camp. Now, I think it's the first time I've ever pitched a tent inside a building, and the Tamar 2 worked brilliantly. Actually, I didn't really need to put the bricks on, but it was just there for peace of mind in case the wind got up. And I think if you wanted to, you could put bricks on each one of the tie-out points and it would be a perfect pitch. It worked really well. What I wasn't expecting was the echo in the building. It was a very echoey spot, and as it got quieter and stiller through the night, it seemed to get louder. Now, I know that was just my perception of it, but just rolling over in my sleeping bag seemed to make an awful loud noise. And I got very conscious of that, as it was a stealth camp. Now, the other noise that kind of caught me by surprise and actually woke me up were the geese. Now, Loch of Strathbeg is about a mile from there, and in the winter we get hundreds of thousands of migrating geese staying at that loch, and they fly from the loch just before first light every morning and head for the fields to feed. And that's exactly what was going on. There were thousands of geese flying over at very low level, honking their heads off, and yeah, it woke me up, it was that loud. Now, everything else on the camp seemed to work fine. My little cooker needs a bit of modification, but it did the job, it cooked my meals. And I really kind of enjoyed doing it slightly differently. Now, I hope you enjoyed the camp. It was a bit different, and if you did, if you could leave me a thumbs up and a comment, and if you're not already subscribed, click the subscribe button, and if you are one of my subscribers, it would really help the channel if you shared the video. So with all that being said, have a great Christmas, and I'll see you in the next video. Ta-da!